Hey, I'm Michael Dorinda,
And I'm Jake Bennett.
and welcome to take three of episode 156 of the North Meets South Web Podcast. Oh my gosh.
Welcome to the show, folks.
I I am not looking
Take,
forward to when my kids do recorder in school. I thought that was
yep,
just a thing here, but you do it over there as well. So
we do indeed. You can call me Dwight Schrute. I need to learn some actual songs. Um, it's been a long time. The one that's big and very popular here for recorders is Hot Cross Buns. Hot
crossbones.
cross
Yeah.
buns, hot cross buns, 1 a penny, 2 a penny, hot cross buns. Very popular song.
Very popular. It is
So,
the one that they teach for sure.
Yes, no. Actually, on a side not related to programming note, my oldest is going to be taking up bass guitar this summer, which I'm super excited about. I think that'll be really fun.
Nice.
And my oldest daughter is taking up acoustic guitar this summer, which I'm also really excited about. So it should be fun. I'm
Starting a
stoked.
band.
I think it should be a
Starting a
good time.
band.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I mean, you've
So
got enough kids to just have a band in the house, so it's
I
all
know.
good.
It's true. We got to get drums, and then we got to get let's see. My daughter's playing guitar, my son is playing bass, and we have another one playing drums. I think that should round it out. The other one can sing, maybe.
Yeah.
Be the lead
Need a
man.
singer, keyboard player, maybe a
Yep.
rhythm guitar.
Yep. Keyboard. There you go. Rhythm guitar. Yeah. Okay. We could do all sorts of stuff. I like it. My wife could play the tambourine.
Yep.
She can book all the gigs. That'll be good. Good times.
It is. There's a group.
Well,
I don't know what they're called, but there's a group of like
Hanson.
teenagers on not Hanson, a group of teenagers that like do covers on TikTok, and they're really good. And it's just like a singer who plays the keys, a guitarist, a bass player, and a drummer, and they're great.
Destroy.
They have like
Yeah.
some incredible range in terms of like the types of music that they're playing, and they always sound good no matter what they're playing. So it's
I've
pretty
been
cool.
listening to this guy recently. He's not new, but he is new to me. And his name is Lewis Cole. You ever heard of this guy?
Mhm. The name
Have you
rings
heard
a
of him?
bell.
Okay.
The
So
only
anyway,
the
he's kind of
name.
like he's a jazz, I think trained jazz like musician, something like that.
Mhm.
Incredible drummer, just an incredible drummer, super good. But okay, one other question: have you ever heard of Vulfpeck? Vulfpeck. Vulfpeck.
No.
Corey Wong, Joe Dart on the bass. Anyway, they're sort of like a funky fusion band. They're all really insanely talented musicians, really funky, fun music. But this guy sort of reminds me a little bit of that. The reason why is because all of his music videos is just somebody with an iPhone going around. He sets up all the stuff in his apartment or his house,
Mhm.
whatever. He'll have like a drummer in the hallway and the bass guitarist right there with him, and then a keyboard there. And then in the kitchen, he'll clear out the kitchen and he'll have like a horns section in there. And then in his driveway, he'll have like a choir. And
You're
like
right.
he'll set it all up, mic it all up, mix it all, and master it, and then release it on YouTube while they recorded these things on iPhone. It's insane. It's really crazy, but he's very talented and fun to listen to. Crazy person, but he's really, really good. So they also
You're
have
right.
a thing called
Check it out.
Clown Chaos, which is a bit dark, but also sort of funny. Anyway, if you're looking for some
You're right.
interesting music, maybe not
Mhm.
great music, but his music videos are hilarious. So you should definitely check him out. So anyway, Lewis Cole.
I have to
So
check it out.
that's been a
Put
jam
some
of mine
links in the show
recently.
notes.
Yeah. You
I've
know
been
who it reminds me
listening.
of?
Gone.
I was gonna say if it
There's
reminds me of if Daniel Colborn was to make music, this is what he would make.
right.
That's every
That
time I
kind
think
of
of it,
chaotic
I look at the
energy.
guy. Yes, chaotic energy, exactly. I look at the
Mhm.
guy and I think to myself, he looks like Daniel Colborn. And then I listen to his lyrics and I'm like, he sounds like something Daniel Colborn would say. And then he's also very smart and just like doesn't care. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, he cares, but I don't know. He just reminds me a lot of Daniel Colborn. So I've been thinking of sending him this artist and being like, number one, have you heard of this guy? And number two, I think you would be this guy in another life. So we'll see. We'll see what he thinks. I'll
It's
have to
pretty
send
funny.
him a message. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about jams. My brother has been playing the guitar since he was in like primary school. And it was always like, he and I would jam a bit, but he would always have a guitar in his hand between like when he got home from school to when he went to bed, basically. And after I moved out of home, he kept playing and he played in a couple of bands. And it was like, I saw him play once, and it was like the band that he's in has their own original music, but they also play as a cover band. And I saw his cover band play, and I hadn't seen the original music for 10 years or something. And I went and saw a gig of his a couple of months ago now, because it was like near home. So I thought it's easy to duck out once the kids have gone to sleep and be back without getting crazy. And he has turned into like, I've never felt proud of my brother, like, as a big brother. I like never felt proud of him. But when I saw him on that stage, I'm like, hell, he's really stuck to his instrument and really perfected
Yeah.
what he's doing. And so like I was proud of him. And they put out their new album a couple of weeks ago. And I've been listening to that fairly consistently. But they charted, their band. So they reached number 15 on the
Wow.
ARIA charts. So yeah, it's
That's a
legitimately good
huge
music. It's
accomplishment.
not
Yeah,
just like,
absolutely.
me pumping up my brother. And they were like, I think 20 or something on the vinyl charts as well, behind
Okay.
like 10 Taylor Swift albums or something like that.
Of
So
course.
that
Of
I feel
course.
like that's cheating. But yeah, to get on the
What's the name of the
charts
band?
is they're called Audio Rain.
Audio Rain. Okay.
REIGN. I'll put a link to
Ah,
that in the show
nice.
notes. Check out
Sweet.
the new album, A Perfect
What
Sea.
sort of genre are we
It's
talking?
rock. Yeah, it's rock.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like it's good stuff. It's all original. It's the title track is called Relentless, which they released back in like 2021, I think. On the back of lockdowns and COVID and all that kind of stuff. So
Sure,
it's
sure.
it's that kind of energy of let us out of here kind of thing. But yeah, the
Yes. Yeah.
album's really quite good. As I said, it on the charts as well. So yeah, check it out. I think they're pretty decent. Well, maybe I'll put a snippet at the end of the show.
You absolutely should. That's a great idea. I think we should start doing that. Just put
Hmm.
Audio Rain at the end. Yeah, that's actually it's I feel like a lot of the whole music industry stuff is some of it's just luck, right? Being in the right place at the right time, the right person hearing you, that sort of stuff. It reminds me of this one comedian, I don't remember his name, but he was on like David Letterman or something, and he was like, "What would you say to, young comedians who are hoping to follow in your footsteps?" And he was like, "I would tell them to quit." He's like, "It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for you." He's
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
statistically, for all the people listening to this, he's like, "It's not going to work out for you. You should just quit." He was like, "I just got lucky. That's what it comes down to. I just got lucky." He said, "But you won't." And it's just funny.
Yeah,
But
but it's
they're
true.
only
Like
the people who
there are
it totally is.
yeah. There's so many things like that in life, where there's this comedian who had a special recently, and everyone found out like because he was always big on, sorry, he was not big on TikTok, but he eventually conceded and started posting stuff, but he only ever did any like crowd work and things like that on TikTok. So people never really saw his comedy, and he got to the point where he was so popular, and I think largely popular on TikTok with a certain demographic because he's like a
Hmm.
strapping young lad kind of thing, right? So the
Sure.
majority of his audience grew from being a strapping young lad and women finding him attractive and stuff. So when he got his Netflix special, people found out what his actual comedy was like, and they really turned on him. So,
Oh,
but so
really?
much, well, because it's not the kind of humor that they thought that they were getting into. It
Oh,
was
okay.
so.
Do you remember
Um,
his name? Who the guy is? It's okay. I'm
uh,
taking you off topic. What you were talking about is like the idea of getting lucky or whatever. So,
yeah, like it's totally getting lucky, right? And being in the right place at the right time and happening to have um the person there that like sees you and figures it out and that kind of stuff. So Matt Rife is the name of the comedian.
okay, I think I've heard of him. Yeah,
So but yeah,
I guess it kind of goes.
his actual comedy is very different to what you see what people had seen of him and knew him from TikTok. So but he got his $20 million from Netflix, so what does it matter?
Oh yeah, I've seen this guy. Yep.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna say it
a
kind of
lot
goes
of.
along with Aaron's talk, right? Like working in public increases your luck or whatever, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of how he ends his talk. Like, and people, one of these days something's gonna happen for you, and people are gonna say, "Well, that's really lucky," and you're like, "Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it is, but also I've been working my tail off to get that luck, right? To make
Mhm.
that luck happen."
Yep.
So, yeah. Anyway,
Um,
good lesson.
Before we finish up our little music segment here, can I just
Yes, indeed.
say Kelly Clarkson is like really underrated? Is that a thing?
Really?
Like,
Okay.
is Kelly Clarkson underrated? Underrated, overrated? Because she is
Mm,
incredibly talented.
She's pretty. Oh yeah, she's absolutely talented. 100% agree on
Like
that.
it was never my kind of music. Like, American Idol, pop music, whatever. But now she's got the Kelly Clarkson show. She does this karaoke,
Yep.
so she's always
Yep.
doing covers and stuff. And I don't think I've heard a bad cover. Like every cover
Oh
that
yeah.
she has put out is just been great. Like she's got such an incredible range, like in
Hmm.
terms of what she can sing. And I mean, yes, she's doing it publicly, so she's not going to perform something that you're not good at. You only put out your best work. But I think
Right. Right.
everything that she's attempted has been incredible. So I think Kelly Clarkson underrated.
Yeah, I know. I don't listen to a lot of Kelly Clarkson, but I can imagine that to be true because she is an incredibly talented vocalist. Absolutely. Yep.
Mm,
She's been on, she was on American Idol. She was also on The Voice. That's where I've seen her a lot, is on The Voice,
mm,
actually. I don't think she's on there this season, but watched some of that back in in the last couple of years. My wife likes that show, so we watch it every once in a while.
mhm.
But it's good. Yeah, and she is very talented. Well, folks, we are about 12 minutes in here and we haven't touched on any code stuff. So why don't we do so? Why don't we jump in and do some code stuff? Um, we've been working on recently, we're going to be doing some near shoring of some stuff. And so we're trying to get everybody out of our legacy system and onto this new system that we're sort of building, which is meant to ramp up all of our internal team members a lot faster than it would have
Mhm.
if they were using the old system. The old system is a green screen terminal system. And so anyway, this is a modern web interface, and so you have the old veterans who are making plenty of money using the old green screen one, so we can't get rid of it, you know. But you have the new stuff that needs to accomplish all the things that the old stuff did. Um, Hopefully, right now the strategy that we've
That's my
sort of
favorite
taken.
set of requirements. The
Oh,
new system
I
has to
know
do everything the old system
everything
did.
the old system did. Now, the good news for us is that we've been able to roll it out slowly, like eventually,
Mhm.
right? Because all the new people were getting trained on both systems, essentially, right? And so our goal was to essentially make the new system attractive enough to persuade people who are using the old system to switch. We don't make them switch. There's no forcing their hand.
Mhm.
And we will probably never fully make anybody switch. But what we're trying to do is make it so that the new system does all the things that you have to do in the old system in 10 steps, in 2 steps. And
Mhm.
so it's much faster, much more efficient, and it just does your job for you. So you can focus on doing the actual work rather than following this 10 sets of steps, right?
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, the 10 sets of steps can be done by a veteran in the same amount of time. It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
memorized, right? They just handle it. It's no big deal. But it has been interesting to do that. And one of the ways that we've done this is using Pennant and feature flags. And I've got to tell you, it has been a huge game changer. I don't know if we've talked much about Pennant on this show before, but if we haven't, I think we should. Have you guys used Pennant much?
Yeah, we're starting to roll it out now, across new stuff that we're pushing out because we do need to be able to feature flag it on and off. We're trying to figure out
Hmm.
like the best way of using it, and I think Tim has made some modifications to Pennant since it was released. Kind of not for me or not because of me, but some things that I've said that this is how we'd kind of want to use a feature flag piece of functionality. I think they've
Yeah.
kind of creeped in. Where a lot of the stuff is like the feature is on, but the feature itself is off, but we want to opt people into it. And the way that it was working initially, it was like a kind of a global thing, and it was like on or off.
Yes.
Um, so now it was like database fallbacks or something like that that was implemented. So yeah, I
Database
haven't been
fallbacks. I'm not
involved
familiar with this.
like as in resolving it from some database thing rather than some like global toggle or whatever. So This allows us to have the feature turned off, but then opt in like admin users or internal users as we start testing it out and things like that. So I haven't
Sure,
been
maybe
too
go
across
ahead.
the implementation or how we've actually been using it, but I know that I've bumped into some stuff initially with it.
Yeah. Maybe it'd be worth me trying to explain briefly how I think Pennant works. Run it by you, see if that crosses your filter, like if that makes it through your filter of how you think it works. And then I can talk about it like how we've been using it a little bit and see if that's helpful to anybody who's interested in trying it out, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool. So the concept of feature flags is that you can have a feature, a new thing that you're developing that you can release into production without crashing your entire application, right? So, like I will, as an example, I have a feature that one of my team members is working on. It's the end of the week. It's Friday. It's not completely done yet, but it's done enough that I can test it out. But I don't want to
Mhm.
test it out for everybody. I just want it like it works locally, it works in my tests, that's fine. But I want to see what it works like in production. And so, what I can do with feature flags is I can put it behind a feature flag, I can push it to production, and it's not enabled for anybody by default unless I say so. So, that's sort of like the promise that I'm making with these feature flags is that you can slowly roll these things out to only yourself and then to a beta set of users and then eventually roll it out all the way. So that's sort of like the premise. Let me explain how that works. With Pennant, once you install it, there are a couple different ways that you can define features. The easiest way is just to define a string. And so what you do is you can say, it's similar to like a gate check. And so you can say, is a feature enabled, like for this particular user or whatever, and you can just pass a string. And then if it's never been resolved for that user before, and you have a value set, you have a resolve function set up, it will determine if it's enabled for that user or not. So that's one way to do it. Not the way I would recommend doing it. The other way that we do it is you can define a class. And so you can say, I think it's PHP artisan pennant make or something like that. And what you can do is then you can define the name of a feature. So for us, we'd say something like can view payment iframe, right? Feature can view payment iframe feature. And so inside of that class, what you get is you get a function, a method called resolve. And the resolve gets a uh, argument passed to it, which is $scope. And by default, the type of that argument is mixed, meaning it can be a bunch of different things, right? But what what the feature facade will typically do is it will automatically resolve the logged in user and pass that to that resolve method. So what you get is inside that class, you get the user, and then you can determine if that particular user should be allowed to see that feature or not. And now, typically, what I do when I'm just rolling out one of these global ones is I'll just say return false. That's it. Return false. And so, what that means is anytime you are checking for that feature, and typically for me, it's like inside a view or inside a controller, or it could be inside of a Livewire component. If I want some behavior to work one way, if the feature is enabled, or behavior to work a different way if the feature is disabled, you can do that. Like inside of your Livewire component, right? You can say it should go to this API or it should go to this API, depending on if it's enabled or not, which is really nice. And so I just say resolve returns false. So what that does is anytime that feature is deployed, once the feature is deployed, there is now a features table inside of your application. Now, here's one of the tricks. No user will have that feature resolved unless they hit the page that contains that check for that feature. So it's not automatically resolved as soon as you push the feature. The person who is hitting that page has to resolve that feature, and then a record is written to the database or whatever driver you're using, determining that particular feature class, and then it will have a flag if it's enabled or not, true or false, right? So by
Mhm.
default, it's going
Yeah.
to be false for everybody, which is great. So I go visit that page, it's false for me, and then I can go to the database and I can turn it on for myself, true. And now I get it, and nobody else does, which is great.
Mhm.
And if you want to roll it out to a set of beta users, I'll do the same thing. Go find them in the database, turn them on to true. Your development team, your QA team, whatever, go turn them to true, and then you can do your testing. The other thing that you can do is inside of that resolve, you could use the user to determine if they're part of a group, right? So you could say, do they have a particular role? Are they in the QA group? And if they are, resolve true, otherwise return false. And so what that does is when the user hits that feature and it resolves, it will look at the behavior that you have specified inside that method and return true or false based on whatever checks you have on that user. So that's the most simple version of what we're talking about. You are not limited, however, to using the user as the scope. You can also do something like pass the user's team, right? And so if you pass the user's team, you could then see like, is the team the QA team? Rather than getting user in that resolve function, you would get the team, and then you could just check against the team. So when you're doing that, you'd have to say feature, whatever the name of the feature is, for, and then you either pass in, instead of the user, which is what default is, you'd say user arrow team or something like that, right? And then that's what's going to get passed to your resolve function. So it's pretty simple. That works well. But if you don't know that it only resolves once before it gets written to the database, that can be very confusing. Because for me, originally, I thought it gets resolved every time they load the page, but it does not. It gets resolved once. And then once it's in the database, that's what it is. Unless you clear it out and let it resolve again.
Yeah. That was the thing that tripped me up the first time that I used it.
Yep, exactly.
Because I was going to use it on the Laracon AU website to determine whether or not something should display. And so because it resolved, I think it was time-based. And because it resolves once, I was expecting it to just appear when, that time was in the past or in the future, whichever way it went. And but because it was already resolved, and because it was like an anonymous thing, it wasn't a per user thing. By the time that time rolled around, nothing happened. So yeah, something to be mindful of because of the way that it does that resolution logic.
Yeah, I wonder like if there's a way to like how would you accomplish that? If that's what you wanted to do. I mean, instead of using a feature flag, you could probably just say like if current time or if now is, after this particular time, I suppose is what you do.
Yeah.
But it seems
what I ended up doing
I
is in that scenario, what I ended up doing was just using like the array driver or whatever it is, so that
okay.
so it does actually check it each time. But I think that's like
interesting.
global. I don't know that you can do it like per flag. So
yeah,
at which
right.
point
It's a
you may as
global
well just put
driver.
an if statement in there.
Correct. That's exactly right. I suppose if you wanted to do the feature check that every time and you want to do the array, I mean, that would work. Which is handy. Okay, so that's number one. That's number one gotcha there, is that if you want to resolve it, it resolves once per user when you do the page. If you want to re-resolve it, you have to sort of clear out that flag, and then it will re-resolve it for you once you hit that page. Now, the other thing that can be a little bit annoying with that is like, for example, if I wanted my QA team members to have it enabled, and by default, I'm just setting a false, right? I'm saying just resolve false. That's it. Every user that I want to enable it for has to go hit that page first before I can enable it for them, because it's not going to be in the database first, right? They have to go there. It resolves it. Then they get a record in the database. Then I can go set it to true, which is annoying. So one way that we got around that is in our application, we're doing a little bit of trickiness. So when we are deploying, we loop over our features directory and we say, go grab any of the features classes that are in there. Then we say, go into the database and delete any features that are in there that are not in this list, right? So we do a where not in and we delete them all. So that cleans up any of the old ones that aren't being used anymore. And then secondly, we say, for each user, resolve missing or load missing. And then we pass in that class or that list of classes. And so what that does is it basically eager loads or eager resolves those features for every single user in our table at that point in time. And so it's not a perfect solution, but what it does do is it allows us to be able to, as soon as a feature is deployed, it's resolved for every user. And now I can go in there and allow the users that I want to see it. Now, again, there are better ways to do that. This is just a way that we've found around it that does work. So that was gotcha number 2. Gotcha number 3 is that each one of these features, if you're using the database driver, has to be resolved on each page load. Not resolved, sorry, queried. And they're individually queried for. And if you have a check
Mm-hmm.
more than once on a page, it will query for it
Multi-query.
more than once. So if you're using features heavily, which we are, you can end up with 13, 14, 15, 25 extra queries per page load because it has to go hit all of those things.
Yeah.
So there is a eager load feature for this. So you could say eager load, and then you can pass the list of classes that you're interested in eager loading, and then you can then it will pass it along with that to the page, and you won't have to query to resolve them again. And it just does it in one big query rather than in 20 queries. It
Yeah.
does it in one,
Yeah.
passes it along, and you're all good to go. So just a couple things to be aware of that we've found that have bit us.
Maybe
That
maybe
yeah.
is does Pennant have the ability to like flag that? You know how with eloquent models you can disable lazy loading and things like that? I wonder if
Interesting.
Pennant has or should have a like
That would
prevent
be a good pull request.
lazy loading of those features so that it
Yeah.
forces you, it won't do it for you, but it will force you to then make sure
Hmm.
that, you're going and doing that. So if there's any rogue, requests to loading a feature, at least you're prompted to do that so that you don't have any user impact. I
Yeah,
wonder.
that's an interesting concept. I like that idea. That could be a good pull request. Another good pull request, I think, could be this idea of like time bombs, which I think we've talked about before. Which is like you could say if it's after a certain date, this feature should throw an exception in my test runner, right, or in my development environment.
Mhm.
If in my development environment or my test environment, and there's a feature that's being resolved that's after this drop dead date, it basically is a halt for you to go fix this. Either remove it because you're not using it anymore, or go update the date manually, whatever. So I think that's the last. Let me think. Oh no, that's not the last gotcha. That is another pull request that you can make. The last gotcha is that if you're using Livewire, and you're using Laravel debug bar, it will look like these queries are being run every 2 seconds. It's a weird thing. So like it looks like because I was watching my debug bar, and it was like every 2 seconds it'd be like boop and like re-resolve all the features. I'm like, what the heck? Boop, do it
Do you
again,
have
re-resolve
like a
all the
poll,
features.
like a live wire
I don't
poll? Is
think
that
I
what's
did.
happening?
I don't know if I did. I might have. That might have been it. But I
Yeah.
talked to Tim, and I was like, Tim, by the way, this is really weird. He's like, I can't reproduce it. I don't know what you're talking about. And I
Yeah.
turned off debug bar, and I was like, oh, it's actually not. It's not happening anymore. I was like,
Yeah,
never
there
mind.
was something I had the other day where there's like a setting that you can put into debug bar's config. I'll see if I can dig it up. Ajax handler auto show. And so anytime it makes an Ajax request, and I had this happening in Nova where I was trying to like look at the query that it was running for something, but every time an Ajax query happened, it would refresh and like change the current
Ah,
debug bar. So it's possible that something is
oh,
triggering
that
that
might
to
have been
run.
it. Yep, that might
So
have
I
been it.
just turned that off in debug bar. But it's interesting. It would still record the request. It just wouldn't refresh. So I could actually look at the thing that I was looking at without the next request coming in and then updating the current context of debug bar. So um, yeah, I mean that's the only thing that springs to mind is that if you had a poll on there and it was causing a request to go back to Livewire, then yeah, as part of that life cycle, it's probably going to be resolving all of the feature flags again, or the pennant flags
Yeah.
rather.
Yep. So those are the things I've run into with Pennant, and I would say that I would definitely recommend it for use. It's been
Mhm.
a huge lifesaver, and there are a couple little things that you have to understand about it, but once you get it, it's solid. And a lot of people could say like, well, I mean, I could rewrite that. I could write that my own. And it's like you totally could. You really honestly could. I mean, what we were just
Yeah,
talking about is like sometimes a conditional is completely sufficient. Um, but it's also tested. This is also tested, and there's documentation for it, which is why I choose to use this rather than my own because I know myself and I know I'm not going to write documentation for this. So the next developer that's coming behind is going to be like, "What is this? How does this work exactly?" It's like, dude, I don't know. Ask the last guy who wrote it.
yeah, yep.
So instead, I just say,
I
"Nope,
think
go look at the docs. That's where it is."
yeah, I think that's the thing with any of the first party Laravel stuff is that, yes, you can write it yourself. Yes, you can implement it yourself. And yes, it will probably work for your use case, but the Laravel stuff is battle tested with, hundreds of thousands of applications. If there's
Right.
issues with it, they're probably going to be found and fixed way sooner than if you've got your own thing running. So yeah,
Absolutely.
always prefer first party things, and then like reputable third party things. Sparse Beyond Code stuff. There's lots of reputable stuff out there as well, but do your own due diligence on that stuff, of course.
Yeah. And the thing is too is like if you're really like dead set on like well, I could do this myself and this doesn't have this thing that I need, write the pull request for it. Like let
Yeah.
everybody benefit from the brain, that you've got, and like from the feature that you think could really be included. And if it still doesn't, if they don't accept your pull request, fork the thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Something like that. I mean, there's a lot of options other than just writing your own stuff. And so I don't know. I think it's worth it. You know what I
Yep.
saw that was
For
just
sure.
hilarious? In our I've got this application that was probably built on like Laravel 4 back in the day. And it's your IAT Studio or something, whatever it is. How do you say that?
Yeah, yeah.
What was it?
I at Studi.
How IAT Studio, is that what it is? Yeah, it was like nullable fields package where it
It's
was
still
like
kicking.
there are certain, yeah, still kicking around. I'm like, dude, we can get rid of that. Sort of like nostalgic. Is like, maybe we'll just leave it around
Yeah.
for a little bit longer. So
I
that
don't
was the
I don't
original.
even
That was
know
the original package you wrote that allowed us to meet.
I don't even know that it's worthwhile using that now because Laravel does
Yeah, you
trim.
got
I
the
mean, I
null.
suppose I
Yeah.
suppose it handles situations where like it does more of a filled check than a trim strings.
Uh huh.
Um,
But it
so
does empty
if
strings to null, right? Is what it does.
yeah,
That's the other middleware that we have now too.
yeah.
So there's like trim
So like
strings and there's empty strings to null. So it doesn't do anything anymore.
yeah. So I don't know, but like it still gets downloads and like people ask for a bump to for Laravel 11. So I guess
That's
people are still
hilarious.
using it. I don't know
That's
if you
so funny.
need to still use it in 2024 on Laravel 11, but as long as people
It's
still
probably like
ask for it.
it's probably one of those things that's like it's already installed. It's already on my models. Like it's just when I
Yeah,
do a composer update, it just gets installed. It's the newest version. It's like I don't care. It doesn't. I don't ever see it. I
yeah,
don't need to mess with it. And so like I could totally rip it out, but it's like it doesn't even matter. It's not worth. It's
yeah,
nothing's broken. Just leave it.
yeah.
So anyway, other more complex issues to deal with. So yeah, man, I will say, so before I go on another rant, give you a chance to talk about anything you want to talk about because we're already at 30 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, we spent 10 minutes of it talking about nonsense. So,
That's true.
Laracon AU is the only thing. Got the
Yes.
towel over here, and you've got this whiteboard over here, which is conveniently blurred out. But this is the speaker lineup over here. So, I
Nice.
think we've put together a really, I think, u- unique. There's lots there's lots of people speaking this year that haven't spoken at a
That's
Laracon
cool.
AU. We've got, I think, 17 speakers that we've sent invitations to. 8 of those speakers have never spoken at a Laracon at all. Um, so I think they're going to be very good talks. I think they're very good speakers. And they've been in the Laravel community for a long time. So this is kind of, this is the whole kind of theme that we're trying to put forward. Where Laracon AU is a bit more low stakes in terms of, on the Laracon scale, in terms of number of people and eyeballs across it and things like that. Obviously, the talks will go out online after the conference, but I think it's a bit more of a low stakes environment to kind of start your speaking career, which is why we really try and bring those newer people in so that they get the opportunities to see what it's all about. So yeah, 8, I think 6 returning speakers. So Matt Stauffer and Simon Brashley-Otis are a couple of those. We announced those earlier this week as coming back to speak at Laracon EU, which I'm excited about because I haven't seen Matt since he was here in 2018. So
Yep. Good dude.
no, not true. Last time I saw Matt was in 2019. But yeah, it'd be very exciting to have him here. the other international speakers that we've got, I'm very excited to have on our stage. One of them has spoken at Laracon US before. The other two have one of them has, the other one hasn't. So I'm excited to bring these voices down under and get them on a
I'm
stage
excited to see if
and
Kevin
sharing
McKee
their
made the
stuff.
list.
See,
We will see
we will
indeed.
see.
Stay tuned,
But
folks. Stay tuned.
yeah, I think I was umming and ahhing about it, and I thought, do I? Because we start historically, we have started the second day of the conference at like 10 o'clock, just because we do after dark on Thursday, so it gives people an
Yeah, yeah.
opportunity to have a bit of a sleep in and things like that. But we're going to start both days at 9:30 this year, and I mean, I think 9:30 is still reasonable for a sleep in after
Yeah. Oh, for
after
sure it
after
is.
dark anyway.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so we've added an extra talk slot this year so that we basically fill out both days,
Oh, that'll be awesome. Yeah.
and and we're gonna try and do a panel of some description again, because I thought we had a lot of fun with the Laravel team last
Those are
year,
unique.
and I've got
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know that it's going to be a Laravel team. It depends on how many we get here. I know that Dries is occupied. He's got or will have a baby come November, so he's not going to be able to travel. Nuno has put his speaking around the world engagements on hold for a little. I mean, he's doing Laracon US, but I think that was, he said last year that he was kind of going to simmer down and focus on content and pest and things like that this year. So I don't know if any of the new people, Taylor's been hiring like crazy lately with, Josh
Yeah.
and a few others joining the fold lately. So yeah, I don't know who's coming, who's not coming. It'll be exciting, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to, in about 2.5 weeks, start announcing some more speakers once we get the acceptances all come through, and schedule kind of looking a bit like what we want the schedule to look like, and going from there. So
That's
we
exciting,
haven't
dude.
bought
That's
tickets.
super exciting.
We smashed our blind bird allocation like 3 weeks earlier than we had kind of
Nice.
forecast, which is fantastic. So we brought forward the announcement of our first 3 speakers, and early bird tickets are on sale now until later. I can't remember the day that I put out, but like later or until sold out. So we're about, I want to say, 40% through our capacity.
And how many people are you hoping to have if
We're going
everything
for
sells out?
400. Yeah, we're going for,
400.
395 is the capacity. So we're at about we're on approach to halfway after a couple of weeks. So it's good.
Oh, that'll be great. Yeah,
And once we
that'll be
start getting
awesome,
some
dude.
speaker
That's a good
announcements going, it'll be good.
that's a good set. Honestly, that's a great conference.
I've had a few people say, like, "Are you coming to Dallas?" I'm like, "Are you coming to Brisbane?"
Yeah,
It's
nice.
we're still like, I get the pain of, like, when we try and invite someone to come here, and it's like, I don't mind the travel. For some people, 24, 26 hours is a bit much, especially when you're used to shorter flights.
Yeah,
Being in Australia, for us to go anywhere other than New Zealand, it's a long way. So,
yeah,
but I think, I would love to go to Dallas this year, but it's too hard with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old to be on the other side of the planet for, I mean, any period of time, but to be on the other side of the planet, if anything happens with a 3 and a 6-year-old, like,
yeah,
it's not like I can just be back quickly. It's, 30 hours of travel away. So I understand it from that perspective as,
yeah,
the parent of young kids. So not this year, maybe next year, probably more likely the year after that. So
yeah. It is
I'll get
tough,
back
dude. I
eventually.
feel that. I feel that. I've got the 4, and they're getting older, so they're getting more independent. We'll get there eventually, but I still got a
Yeah.
6-year-old. Did I tell you Harrison broke his arm?
Yes. Not on
Yes.
here, but you did share that he broke his arm.
Yep. Broke his arm, and so, I mean, stuff like that still happens, So, I mean, whatever. They're
Yeah.
good. They're good. They're getting to that age
Liv
where they're
Liv
getting more
Liv
and more
decided to headbutt
able
a chair
to
the
kind
other
of be
day.
around. Oh my gosh.
I say headbutt a chair. She was running and not watching where she was going and fell over and went headfirst into a chair. So bit of blood,
Eh,
but no
that's
stitches or anything
that's
like that. They
kids,
just took her to the
dude.
emergency clinic. Bit of glue, bit of bit of bandage, and she was fine.
I'm glad for the glue. I think the glue is a good call. Like
It was a good one.
I love using glue so much more than the stitches. Like I remember asking for glue when I went to the emergency room just because I was like, please don't do stitches in my face. I dropped a dumbbell on my face once. That was fun.
Lifting too
And
heavy.
well, no, I was doing too many sets. I was in my last set, last rep of my last set, and the dumbbell was too heavy, and these things were not regular dumbbells. Okay, they were
Mhm.
like the most janky dumbbells from like the most crappy gym you've ever seen in your life. So there was like basically like a piece of black pipe with weights welded onto the black pipe. No joke. So off the end of this dumbbell was like an inch of black pipe with just like just a circle, like rough, you know, I mean, it wasn't even just metal. It was just metal, just like a
Mhm.
sharp edge of metal. So stupid. And so it's coming down and I can't like drop the other weight to support this one. And so I just see it coming towards my face and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to drop this thing on my face. So that end, it goes wham right in my eye, like right below my eye.
Ugh.
So I drop the weights and it makes a huge noise. And all the guys who are lifting, who know what they're doing, are looking at me like, what are you doing? My brother happens to be in there, who is one of the guys who knows what he's doing. He was a beast at that time. And I stand up, like I almost knocked myself out with this weight hitting myself in the face. And I stand up and look in the mirror and I just see this line under my face and then it just starts bleeding.
Uh,
And I'm like, oh gosh, this thing is deep. And so I said to my brother, like, dude, can you drive me to the hospital quick? He's like, bro, it's leg day.
I'm in the middle of a
Like,
set.
yeah, exactly. He's like, dude, I can't drive you. You're gonna have to wait. I'm like, I'm working out right now. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I drove myself to the hospital. It's so funny, and they glued it up. It was fine, but oh man, that was hilarious. It's filled in now. You can't really see it, but
No.
I love telling that story because I just love giving my brother a hard time about that. Dude, it's leg day. He had a poster on his wall when we were growing up. It said, "Your brother is getting married on leg day. That's what videotapes are for." That's what his poster said. I was like, respect, man, respect.
Not
So
skip leg
anyway,
day. Very important.
don't skip
You
leg
don't want
day.
to be running around with chicken legs.
That's right. That's right. It's so funny. So anyway, hey, on that note, we should wrap this one up.
Sure.
Episode 156, take 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, episode
Victory.
156. Find show notes for this episode at northmeetsouth.audio/156. Hit us up on Twitter at Jacob Bennett and Michael Dorinda or at North South Audio. Show notes for this episode. We already talked about that. Rate us up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be amazing. And until next time, folks, don't drop any weights on your face and don't skip leg day and sign up for Laracon AU. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.